Covert White Rabbit, I have an odd question. You have said, and Scientology has said, that the RPF and/or the whole was voluntary. Has anyone, to the best of your knowledge, ever politely declined or flat out refused to go? If so, what was the result? Were they eventually broken down so they recanted their decision, or did they get some sort of sanction, i.e. extra courses, having to hand out booklets, etc., or were they booted straight to the curb? Any insight you can give will help. Thank you for your answer. Okay, as I've mentioned, the whole and the RPF are two very different things, and this is actually a crucial difference with this. The whole is a place at the international base that has been talked about, the double-wide trailers and all that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. That is a place that David Miscavige just verbally orders people to go to, and they go. And there's no like questioning of those orders or anything like that. If you're going to be at the INT base and you're going to be under David Miscavige and he orders you to go into the hold, then that's what you're going to do. Now, if you want to leave the Sea Org in order to get out of that, well, you can say, I want to leave the Sea Org, and then they'll, put you through the little procedure that they do to kick you out of the Sea Org, and that takes months or even over a year. So that is the whole. It's sort of like this horrible place where people are sent and do these these mind control nonsense games and basically live at David Miscavige's whim while they execute their punishments, right? But a point about the whole is that, from what I understand, is that when a person is sent there, or many of the people who are sent there, are under what's called a conditional declare or a conditional SP declare. They're suppressive persons. So if they probably think that if they leave, that they're leaving all of Scientology forever. All their friends, the wife, spouses, family, all of it. Because they're going to be declared a suppressive person if they say, I want to go. So that is held over them as a control factor. So yeah, it's voluntary in that they don't have to stay. It's not, they could say, I want to leave the Sea Org now. I want to go. I want to get out of here. I don't want to do this anymore. And then they can either do like what Mike Rinder did or like Mark Headley did and just escape, or they can follow the procedures like Jeff Hawkins did and be what's called routed out, where they follow the procedures. That's how I left the Sea Org, right? Not from the whole, but that's how I left, is I said, look, I want to leave. And they made me go through this, 9-month procedure before they'd let me go. But when you do it that way, you're still, generally speaking, you're still in good standing with the church. But in the case of the guys who are, conditionally declared suppressive, I'm pretty sure they think that if they said they wanted to go, that they would be, declared SPs. And that means no more contact and all the rest. Okay. The RPF, a big difference between that whole situation with the whole and the RPF is that the RPF is a very specific program. And it's got a very specific series of steps that you do. And the first step, the very first thing you do when you land on the RPF, if you're sent there, is you have to sign waivers, a whole series of them. And the Church of Scientology is really big on legal documents and contracts and waivers. And you have to, and if you're going to do the RPF program, then they're going to make you sign waivers saying you are doing it voluntarily, you are doing this of your own free will. They lay out, it's a very difficult program. It's physical hardship. There's, sequestering from the rest of the Sea Org. Like they lay it all out, and you sign that you are doing this of your own volition, okay? The whole, they don't do that. You're just sent there. But the RPF, because it's this whole stringent program, and because there have been legal problems, and because there have been PR problems, they've laid these contracts out to make it ultra clear that it's voluntary. You have to agree to do it before you do it. Now, my issue, one of my big issues with it, of course, is you don't necessarily know what you're agreeing to fully when you sign these papers and proceed into this program. And of course, for somebody to be in a situation where they're going to willingly sign these papers, their head has to already be so far up their, rear end that that there are very legitimate questions as to whether this is or isn't a voluntary thing. Okay, now the other thing about the RPF though is that there have been people I know who have been given the ultimatum that they either do the RPF or they are going to be kicked out of the Sea Org and declared suppressive. And I know that happened in at least 3 or 4 cases that I know of personally, that I saw with my own 2 eyes. I'm sure there are many, many, many more examples. So that's really a choice that's no choice as far as a Scientologist is concerned. From out here in the real world, you might look at this and go, well, good, declare me, no big deal. But, when you're in the mindset, that is a big deal because now you're disconnected and all the rest. So I did see that occur as a method of coercion to get the person to agree to do the RPF. The other thing that I saw, though, when I was on the RPF, is there was a man who was assigned to do the RPF. He was ordered to go do it. He didn't want to do it, and he was bucking it. Now he was not a top-ranking executive. He was just a supervisor from the same place that I had come from, the Advanced Org of Los Angeles, AOLA. So he shows up and he's like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do this or not. And he wasn't signing those waivers right away, but there he was on the RPF. So he was given time to check it out. And he spent 3 days doing the program, mustering and doing the breakfast and the lunch and the 20 minutes for food and the running around and all that. And he looked around at all this and he went, no, I'm not doing this. Forget it. No. And he got his walking papers and he left the Sea Org rather than do the RPF. And so, kudos to him. That was probably one of the sanest things I ever saw anybody do in the Sea Org. And he, and I don't think he ever had anything to do with Scientology after that. Actually, I never saw or heard of him again. So, so he actually had a pretty level head on his shoulders, right? Most of the people who end up at the gateway to the RPF feel so beaten down and so bad about, the horrible things they did to arrive there in the first place that they sign the papers, they don't even read them, and they just do the program and feel that they're lucky for being given an opportunity to do so. So there's a lot of psychology and a lot of, sociology and stuff going on with the group and the pressure and the peer pressure and the various things that make it pretty questionable as to how voluntary it is. But strictly speaking, if you can keep a level head during the whole process, you don't have to do it. And you can, you do have options. So, so there's that. Now, once you're in the RPF, it's a whole different thing. Once you sign those papers and you're in. And getting out is a months long process, and it's not good. So there you go.